Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. And as usual, this is one of my favorite parts of the show is welcoming our guests. And I want to stop and thank them for bringing a couple of things that I deem so expensive. Time. It is a beautiful commodity that we all, as human spirits on this planet, are gifted 24 hours. What we do with that is our choice. And I have someone that is willing to spend some of that beautiful quality time with us here at Threads of Enlightenment. The other is their journey. The journey housed who they were and created the individual that we are here before. And I want to thank them for coming and sharing all of this so that we can partake and become better human spirits while we are here. Amrit, thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ken. I'm super excited.
It is my pleasure, sir, and honor. Introduce yourself and let the people know who you are and what you have produced or given birth as a result of your life journey so far.
Yeah. Oh, my name is Amrit Singh. I was born in Germany in the 70s. As Alexander, and I grew up quite regular as a normal child with a normal family with loving parents in a beautiful environment. And then at some point I realized that there must be more, so I started having these questions of, okay, so how does this work? What's going on with God? Where's the experience? And I didn't find a lot of answers at the time. And then the first time I truly experienced more than just my physical aspect of my physical identity was when I smoked some weed. And I was very curious because obviously, that's not the natural start to some spiritual journey through getting stoned. But there was something in there and I touched on something and I was like, oh, this is so curious. This is bigger than me. There's more out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it took me several years to realize that there's other ways to get to the same feeling without getting stoned every day. And so when I learned about meditation and yoga, that was my first introduction into being able to create that same sensation in myself through my own practice. And that laid the foundation for my life. That was the point when I was in my 20s where I was like, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop smoking weed. I'm going to stop cigarettes. But I lived in the same environment with my same friends, just being in my early 20s, not having figured out a lot. And so it was really, really hard because I kept getting pulled back. And my friends were just like, oh, sure. They supported me, they were kind about it. Yeah. But it was just like, I wanted to hang out with people and they would all go out and party. So I went with them and it was very hard for me to sustain it. Yeah. And so at some point, I think it took me almost 5 years of this back and forth between like, okay, I'm living a super healthy lifestyle. I meditate. I don't touch any drugs or alcohol. And then getting right back sucked into it with my friends and going back to partying. And I was just like, oh my God, it's been 5 years of back and forth. I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm moving to India. So I got on a plane with my bag, no idea what to expect, and ended up in India in a boarding school, which was kind of like a mixed ashram setting boarding school from the Kundalini Yoga community and from the people who had founded that 3HO community. And suddenly I was surrounded by people who didn't smoke and didn't drink and didn't party. And I was like, oh my God, this is so easy. I can wake up at 5 every morning and meditate for 2 hours. I can just eat my vegetarian diet. And I was happy with it. And so it was a really, really interesting experience for me. Because now suddenly I was in a new setting of my life and in a new part of my identity. And so I ended up staying for 20 years. So it was a really long time.
Let me ask you a question, though.
I met my wife.
Let me ask you a question. How old were you when you began to ask these questions, where you were beginning to wanting to know about God and stuff like that, you said when you were young. How old were you when you began to become, I call it the perpetual investigator of the self and the universe? It's just why, how, who, and you are driven by those
What was, yeah,
questions to grow. How old?
yeah, for me, it started early. And when I think back, I can really see when I was 6, 7, 8, I didn't question it because it was just
Yeah,
part of my identity. Like, was
yeah,
this like,
yeah,
of course life is like this. Of course life is with magic in it and with connection and with energies and with these kinds of things. But
yeah,
then when I turned into a teenager, and especially being a teenage boy, in the growing up in Germany, I wanted to be tough, I wanted to be a big
yeah,
guy, I
yeah.
wanted to be like Rambo and James Bond. So I pretended to be all these things, and put on this mask. And that's when
Yeah,
I realized, oh my God, this is not me.
yeah,
I'm soft, I'm kind, I have an open heart. And so I was in this battle, right,
yeah.
where I felt this very spiritual aspect of myself, but it was not cool to display that with 14. It was much
Yeah,
cooler to be able to drink 8 beers in a row and then, not throw up and act like an idiot.
yeah,
So I was focusing my energy more on that than
yeah,
on, hey, there's already so much going on inside of me. So I kind of just compartmentalized and put that in a little corner and was like, okay,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
let's not talk too much about this with my buddies, because it's not cool to talk about how open your heart is and how spiritual you are. So
yeah.
I can just put that in a corner.
Oh, wow. It's really fascinating because I love to see when that entrance started to happening, that slight touch, if you will, on your shoulders to get your attention, saying, hey, there is a little more out there that I want you to get to know about. And so it's very fascinating to see that age where we began to question those things. So you took a leap of faith, as they say. You realize the back and forth is not the way to handle it, and I know that comes with an erosion of the self because you're standing there. You are now beating yourself up because you weren't able to maintain, as you will, and so you decided to go to India. You have arrived. You realize these are like-minded folks. You are when you were back in the States and you're hanging out with in your 20s and stuff like that, did you begin then to really look into and investigate the meditation aspect of your life, or did you do that after you went to India?
No, it was before. And it was in those 5 years before where I started training and started learning about Kundalini Yoga, and I started learning about meditation, and I
Yeah,
started practicing on my own. And so I did get glimpses of what was possible.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
that was
yeah,
before I went to India. And that was for me one of the reasons to go to India, because I was just like, hey, I need a change. I need a different environment. And that
yeah.
seemed like a great opportunity because they needed people to help with the program. They needed people to help serve. And so I was like, okay, I'll just go there and serve and become part of the team. And so that was the
Yeah.
motivation.
Yeah, that's awesome because one of the things that I tell people, Amit, is the reason why they live this circular life, and you were just talking about it, where we go back and forth, because of course, I lived like that for a long, long time, is because we really haven't, we've decided, but we haven't made a decision. We've decided that I
Uh-huh.
want to change, but we didn't make the decision that I want to change. And when we get to that space and we make the decision, I always tell folks, the human spirit is designed, the human soul is designed to then create what we just said. And what it does, it pushes us forward. You decided, okay, this has to change. You look to India because of what you were studying and what you were seeking, and you began to make the move towards it. And so the circular life I tell people is that you haven't made your decision. You've decided to change, but you haven't made your decision yet. You're still out there. But once you do, life
Yeah.
happens at that moment. So now that you're here, you're in India, you are a part of this community, you are surrounded by like-minded people, you're meditating so many amount of hours a day. What began to happen to you now that you are there? What was that language, that information, that communication that you were having with you while you were here at that space?
Yeah, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of newness coming in. You know, at the same time, I started following the Sikh lifestyle. And I very consciously don't call it the Sikh religion, because I don't think we need more, narrowed down religious practices in our world. But it was part of the Sikh religion. And so I started picking bits and pieces from it. That's where the beard is from. That's where the turban is from. I would practice some of the prayers. I would practice for a period of time quite intensely, and really going in deep to see what was there, because I really liked what I saw in the people who did apply the practice to their lives. And I think there's such a big difference between, you can look at two Sikhs at the same time, and one just says, I'm a Sikh, and that's my religion of my parents, so I identify as a Sikh. And then the other one says, like, I don't care what I am, but I practice these techniques every day. And you can see the light in the person who does practice the techniques. And so for me, that was interesting. And I liked that, because that was one of the things I missed in my own upbringing. That's one of the things I missed in living in Germany and, being surrounded by people who have a religious practice, but not to the level where I could see the light in that person, that I could see how that practice benefited them and expanded them and made them shine brighter and just become a better version of themselves. And so this was the first time I experienced this, where, again, it ties back to what we talked about in the beginning, where I saw these people using these techniques and these practices to serve the world more, and to become better servants of humanity. And so that was really inspirational for me. So I dove in deep, and I really, pulled in everything and experimented with it and learned about it. And now, 25 years later, I'm at a different stage, right? Now I'm coming out of it again. For me, it's not so important anymore to identify as a Sikh, because I see how, walking around with my beard and my turban, it creates sometimes more walls and more blocks with people than it creates connection and invites people in. So I'm very conscious of that, and I very consciously, will approach people and pull them in, especially if they're interested and if they have questions and they say, like, why do you look different and what do you do? And so for me, the more and more I grow away from this fundamentalist religious aspect of my reality into more an inclusive, we're all the same, we might look different, but we're all the same thing. It works much better for me, and I think it works much better with the people I talk to too.
Yeah, I think we are made of the same fabric, and people don't understand that. They look at just the outer shell, the outer casing of me, but that's not who I am. This is simply the outer casing. When I release this outer casing, I still exist. I exist. I'm able to move to a different plane and a different dimension. And I tell people that the body just keeps you and I here on earth as residents of the earth. But when we release the body, we are not residents of the earth. We're residents of the universe. It's different.
Very much.
And
I think the new generation really understands it, because for the new generation, this is a normal thing. They play video games. They understand that you pick an avatar to play in your game. It's like playing Super Mario Kart, right? You are not the character you pick to drive with in your car, but that's your avatar, and that's what you're using to play the game. And then when the round is over, guess what? You can pick a new character. And then you look completely different. And then you're much bigger, or you got a different, or you look like a crocodile or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Because you're still the same. You're the controller sitting there playing the game. You are the one who's experiencing the experience. But game, you pick your avatar.
Yeah. So you now you got there. As you said, you dove in deep. As you began to submerge yourself with the information, the writings of the Vedas, and all of these other sages that you are familiar with, and you began to look into the spiritual realm as you read these words, what began to happen to you? What did you begin to notice that began to shift in you and cause your center, as they say, to begin to move from where you were before you got into India, when you landed, and now that you're deep in, shifting is happening. So talk to us about some of those things that you began to notice about yourself, Amrit, and how did you begin to manage them? Because you cannot go in that deep without noticing things. What did you find out, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, I realized a lot, especially in my studies of the text and through my practices and to meditating a lot and to interacting with other people on the path. I realized, oh my God, I hit the jackpot. I found the perfect path to enlightenment, to God, to whatever you want to call it, to source energy. And this is the perfect path. There is no better path out there in the world. And so I got really into my ego, right? Into my, oh my God, let me tell the whole world. All they have to do is exactly what I do, and they'll be fine. I think, like so many of us before me, there was like such a rush, because I had explored and discovered something which was so valuable for me, like nothing else in my life had that value up to that point. And it blew my mind. It was, to the point where all I wanted to do is bring other people on the righteous path and tell other people how to do it exactly the way I'm doing it. And so I'm laughing about it now, recalling that memory from 15, 20 years ago, because I was so convinced. And so that's certainly a trap, right? So to just make that very clear, that's not where I'm at anymore. That was my trap. I fell in, and now coming out of it and now realizing there's so many paths and there's so many beautiful things. Actually, the biggest thing I learned from myself falling into this trap so deeply is now I have a lot of compassion with people who try to tell me that they have found the right path, and that I should just believe in XYZ God, and then I'm enlightened and covered. And I have love for these people from my heart, where I'm saying, like, oh my God, I've been there. I understand how you're feeling. I know how excited you are about it. And I totally understand that you want to convince me and to tell me to believe in your God, because I understand how important this is for you and how important this is in your reality. But for me, really, the biggest thing I learned out of that is that you can go through this curve, and that this curve is part of the spiritual path. And it's part
you're
of
supposed to, Armis. I believe you're supposed to.
I like it even better. That. You're supposed to become like a wobbling idiot for a couple of years.
Because this is my belief on that. If we did not go through it that way, how can we be empathetic? How can we have compassion for those that are like that? We are not familiar with it. But because we went through that, we are absolutely 100% familiar with how that feels, what it felt like to me, so that when you do have that conversation with that person, you are able now, through that exchange, to really be even more impactful than if you were coming just like a bulldog, if you will. You know the
Yeah. Yeah.
nuances. You can see as you speak how they react when you touch the nerve. You have this dance because you're familiar with that exact energy, and you are now able
Yeah.
to be an effective translator, if you will, or communicator to that individual so that they can come out from the ego that they're in. And I think you're supposed to go through it, my friend.
Yeah. So
You
I
know?
did, and it was fun now looking back at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that at some point, my time in India just felt complete. I'd been
Yeah.
there. My wife came there with me. We had two kids. They grew up in India in their early childhood years in a very safe and very spiritual environment, and it was a very good time for us. And
Yeah.
then just recently, we decided to make a choice, and we said we wanna leave India. We want to start new. We're in our 40s. This is a good time. Let's jump
Yeah.
on it. And we first moved back to Germany just because we didn't really know what our next steps would take. And then we got locked down with COVID, which in Germany was not a fun thing to happen.
Yeah.
And then after that, we decided last year to move to Mexico because my wife is Mexican. And she had left Mexico with 17, and so she hadn't lived here for more than half her life. And it was a beautiful choice to come back to Mexico, come back to her roots, allowing my kids to have this experience, to learn Spanish, to integrate themselves in in their Mexican part of their identity. And so it's been this beautiful journey since we've been here.
Excellent. I love that because my son just he is there visiting, and he just told me, he says, I think I may live there. So we were having this conversation about that. I have a good friend of mine, Rama Singh, that lives out there in New Mexico as well, and he also is a Sikh, and so he and we chat from time to time. And I want to talk to you about this particular thing. Invite us, if you will, to your meditation time. I try to educate people the importance of meditation, what it does to the individual, how it empowers you to slow down the thoughts that are coming at just a brutal rate. But in that space of your meditation, that's where you have the opportunity to develop the skill sets to begin to slow down the thought, begin to process it, and choose which one you allow to give him permission to go forward. And I tell people that one of the most important aspects within a meditation is the breath. The breath, to me, represents the bridge between the natural and the supernatural. But there are techniques that you have to learn. You just don't sit down and, you'll lose your mind. You have to learn and be patient with yourself. Invite us there as to when you first started and how you grew and began to understand the purpose of meditation in your life.
Yeah, for me, I realize meditation is a tool. It's a tool I choose to use because I don't like feeling anxious. I don't like feeling nervous. I don't like feeling scattered in my brain. I don't like feeling afraid and insecure in my life. And there's no pill. I can go to the pharmacy and just buy a pack of pills, which I can take and be, not those things anymore. And so for me, I realized if I do not want to feel like this in my life, I'm going to have to invite some tool and practice with that tool in order to change the way I feel. And so this is really all meditation is for me. That I say it's a little bit like a toothbrush. Like in the morning, I don't like that my breath is stinky, so I choose to brush my teeth. I don't have to brush my teeth. I can walk around with stinky breath all day I want. No, never have to brush my teeth. But because I want to express myself in a different way in this world, I choose to brush my teeth. I choose to pick out some nice clothes and put on some nice clothes. I choose to brush my hair. That is my choice I'm making because I want to represent myself in a certain way. So for me, it's the same with the meditation. I don't like to be, snappy. I don't like to be reactive. I don't like to be all over the place, especially when I deal with my kids or when I work with my clients. I want to be the best and centered and most balanced version of myself because, again, it all comes back to the same point. I want to serve better. I want to uplift those around me. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better coach so that when my clients come to me and they pay me money, they walk away with more value because they are saying, oh my God, this guy has this shit together because he sat his ass down and meditated this morning. So this is why I meditate. For me, it's really that simple.
I tell people these are tools that you can utilize and bring into your space to start making your shift in your perspective. And everything that you said was the reasons why I did the same, because I had to deal. I was a director of in managed healthcare, and dealing with all of my staff in marketing and whatever, all the different energies coming at me all day long. And plus, I was a single dad with my boys, and so my world was something else to imagine. And so I had to learn, and I brought into my world this tool, journaling and writing and doing all those stuff. I can't do that. You can't ask me to write something, but meditation was something I really like. So I always tell people, find what it is that brings you to that space. Use that tool to achieve your desired outcome, and that's it. So here you are. You have learned so much. You told us that you stayed in India for a while, and you began to learn to control the ego and all of those things that you experienced as you were learning and delving into their studies. When did you, and you've been saying it from the time we started talking, when did you give birth, if you will, to your coaching now part of your lifestyle? When did that come about, and how did it happen?
It was a quite recent thing. It was after we left from India. It took a little time. COVID was a great tool for me because I realized I wanted to be able to work from anywhere else in the world. And I wanted to have this luxury of being able to say, I can be in Germany, I can be in Mexico, I can be in the United States. It doesn't matter. I can continue to generate money through my work and through what my passion is and what I love to do from anywhere in the world. So I made the choice to fully go online and to do all my coaching online, to teach my courses online, to put all these things up online, which has been like a beautiful process for me over the last 2-3 years, because I feel for myself, I've gone through more spiritual growth in the last year by putting myself on social media, by learning about sales, by learning about marketing, by writing sales pages, by doing all these things which I very easily dispatched of 5 or 10 years ago as very low level, non-spiritual stuff. It's been really challenging. I really had to step out of my comfort zone. I really had to show up for the world in a new way. And I had to show up as a very authentic and version of myself to say like, okay, this is who I am. And this is how I want to serve. And people needed to have this ability to get to know me. And so it's been such an amazing journey, and it provided for a lot of spiritual growth for me.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's your growth is always an expansion of yourself when you go beyond. There's a couple of things that you had mentioned that I want to circle back because it's important that one find your purpose and then be purposeful about it. I always encourage people to do. One of the lies that they say to you is that your love of what your gift is, you have this gift within you, that it's not able to sustain you. That is a lie. Amit just told you so. You do what you love,
Yeah,
and you would be. I believe the gift is designed to provide for you already. It is there. It's simply waiting for you to take that faith and begin to be disciplined enough to go forward. And when you open that door, you would be amazed what is waiting there for you. It's just been waiting for you. But because we have been programmed to believe that I can't do that because I'm not going to make the money to support my family, it is a lie.
exactly.
It is an absolute lie. I want you guys to hear me. It is a lie. You have to trust, as some say universe, some say God. You have to trust that and allow that provision to be shown to you, that it's been there waiting for you all this time. I think COVID came to make people like yourself and many others change the trajectory of themselves
Oh yeah,
and their families forever. And so talk
yeah,
to us about your the coaching now piece as you began
yeah.
to formulate it, Armit. How did you come about it? How did you put it into your pieces? How did you come out, and how much fun was that?
Yeah, it was amazing because for me, I want to pick up what you just said. The finding your purpose, finding your gift, finding your why are you on this
Yes,
planet? What do you have to give back? How can you serve and being
yes,
taken care of at the same time financially and being able to pay your rent and pay your car payments and pay you for the food you need to
yeah,
eat and provide, especially for us men, that's a big challenge, right?
yep. It's
Because
a
we're
big
so
thing.
into this,
Yes,
oh, I'm the provider, I
yes,
need to go chop some wood and kill some animal in the forest, right? It's this weird thing we have genetically. Obviously,
yeah.
women go through the same thing, but they're much more intuitive and smarter around it. You know, we're just like,
Oh yes,
oh, I have to do it. So
I
what I
agree.
found is I can get people to this why in my first session, you know, where it
Hmm.
gets very clear and I say, okay, Ken, here, we're right here. This is your why. This is what you need to do. This is what is done,
Yeah,
solved, right? You're done. You can do it by yourself and you're all set.
yeah,
But then I very quickly realized that even though when I help people to find their own why, and this is not me telling them how to do it, this is me asking the right questions so they can explore it for themselves,
for themselves. Yep.
that they come to a point where they say, okay, that's amazing. I kind of knew this since I'm a kid, but how do I do it? How you know, I fall, you know, they have this amazing meeting, they go out, and then a week later I talk to them on the phone. They're like, yeah, I'm right back to the normal thing. I'm not trusting it. I can't do it. It's so hard. So this is how the coaching started, where I said, okay,
Yeah.
I will commit to you for a 6-month period and I work with you on a regular basis and I'm available for you when you hit those low points to just pick up the
Yes.
phone and say, hey, Amrit Singh, I need to talk for 5 minutes. This has been the
Yeah.
worst day
Yeah.
of the last 3 months, right? So to come to this point to serve someone at such a deep level
Yeah.
became so powerful because now suddenly I see my clients transform. I see them
Yes.
reach their dreams and express themselves. And they're talking about like, oh my God, I'm looking back 4 months and my life completely changed. I, you
Wow.
know, maybe got out of a toxic relationship, or I changed the way I work, or I have a better relationship with my kids now. And so these things just start manifesting. And then they're like, and I made more money last month than I made before. You know, like it blows their
Yeah.
mind. So it's this
Yeah.
amazing thing. And so really I see the coaching again as a tool to say,
Yeah.
okay, there is a way. If you want to dive deeper, you want to go on your path to purpose, make a commitment to a coach. Say,
Yeah.
I want you at my side for the next 6 months. Pay their fee. The higher, the
Yeah.
better, because the more money you pay, the more committed you are.
Yeah.
Because if you pay $300 for a 6-month coaching program, you're like, I don't know if I make the next meeting, not a big deal. I miss
Yeah.
it, right? I
Yeah.
only paid so little. If you pay $10,000 for your coaching program, guess
Oh,
what?
yeah.
You're not going to miss a meeting. You know why? Because you're like, ooh, I paid so much money, I better show up. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
this is how it works. And at the same time, I'm also teaching these online meditation courses and how to really use these very simple techniques and how you can implement them in your life and how you can turn them into tools that work for you. So I have all these
Yeah.
pieces go hand in hand, and it's super exciting. I love doing it.
Yeah. When you find that purpose, life, man, changes. The flavor of it is different. Everything about your breath, your existence is so much more sweeter than if you're just, living by default. And so I always invite people to come and find your way. Seek someone like Amrit. Why? Because he went through all of those hardship. He spent years going through it, and the purpose is that there was a need, and there's a need for you, and because you were seeing that you have this need, he went through all of that, so that when you guys sit down, when you find him, you think that you just happen to find him. I don't believe in that stuff anymore. I believe you were supposed to find him. I believe that he went through at the time and came out at the time COVID came to cause him to solidify the programs and the training and all of that. So that because your need was pulling on him to cause this thing to happen. And so when he connects with you, because he's been through the journey, he can see those areas that you have no idea exist. And he can bring you to your desired outcome by the right question. He doesn't have to do anything. Why? Because he knows exactly where you're at. He knows the question to ask because he did it many years ago. But you'll be able to go through, as they say, much faster and come out at your desired outcome. You mentioned that some of the folks that you hear, people are talking about those stories. Talk to us because this servant lifestyle, talk to them and educate the audience as to the servant heart. You mentioned that when you were younger, you put on the fighter persona and all of these things, the brave thing, but there is this heart that is even in that noise was a servant heart. Talk to them. There are many that don't know how to identify it. They know it's there, but they don't know what to do with it. Have a conversation with them, Amrit, as to what to do with that, because that's important.
What comes to my mind is a little story which helped me to understand it much better, and it helped me to really connect with this identity in myself. It's a story from India from many hundred years ago, and it's not tied to any religion. But in the story, a spiritual master or saint or whatever you want to call it is walking with his student. And they're walking by the side of the lake, and they're walking together in this beautiful, serene environment. And the student, of course, has many questions and keeps asking questions. And the master gives his answers and says, like, yeah, this is like this is like that. And so at some point, they sit down next to the water. And the master sees a scorpion swimming in the water, drowning. And the scorpion cannot support itself, like paddling wildly and going underwater and making it back up. And, scorpions are not made for swimming. So he's in the water drowning, and the master gets up and reaches in with his hand and rescues the Scorpio from drowning from the water and places him on the ground. And in the moment he places him, the scorpion stings him. And the student goes like, "Oh my God, master, are you okay? Why the scorpion just stung you in the hand? And why did you do that? Why did you put your hand in the water? Are you mad? You didn't think the scorpion would sting you? I mean, what's going on?" And the master said, "It's my nature. It's my nature to rescue the scorpion." And the student goes like, "Yeah, I understand. I've been studying with you. I know it's your nature. I know you're so amazing. I want to be like you. This is this most amazing thing. But didn't you think like the scorpion, and why did the scorpion sting you? And didn't the scorpion see the beauty of your mastery and of your knowledge and that you were saving him?" And it's like, no, it's the nature of the scorpion to sting me.
Yeah.
And so the moral of it is really to recognize, what is your nature? How do you want to show up in the world? And are you willing to change your nature? And are you willing to change your heart of service just because the world is like the scorpion and wants to sting you and wants to get you back? Are you going to be different, or you're still going to make the same choices? So that, I love that, because for me it's been so powerful, the story.
Yeah, it's a powerful imagery, and the insight that one gets from the fact that the nature, when you say that word, it's deeper in its connotation to me. It is something that you are, versus if you say it's your personality. When you say it's nature, it's something that is you. And you have to look at that and say, are you satisfied with this kind, or do you want another type? The thing is, you can actually change and recreate the nature, but you have to make that decision. You are the only one, as you heard this conversation. You get the client and you get them all fired up, and they're like, yeah, and then next week they're all down and they lost it, and so forth. I always try to start with people and tell them, you're about to go and embark on a flight. Any flight that takes off is not a linear flight. It doesn't go one line and never, On this journey or this flight, you will have some things that you're familiar with. They're called turbulence. And that's natural, because there are going to be things outside of your control that will be affecting this plane. But the plane has a couple of things that's very important, and it's a small little thing, and it's called a compass. And that compass, when the wind goes and the turbulence come and it tosses the plane in all kinds of ways, the journey still continues. It makes a little adjustment, it comes back on course, and it continues. And then you have a little more turbulence. That is it, guys. It is never a straight line. But find your compass. And so you have to have a coach sometimes, like a pilot, will look at that plane and be able to navigate it, begin to turn it to make sure that the compass is there. Find your coach. I got one for you, and he has been through a lot. He's talked about it, and I want you guys that are listening to us I'm going to provide everything for you to get to him. Get into his classes to find out who you are and change your nature, guys. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful life. Talk to us about your...
And I would even take it...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would even take it a step further, because I love the image of the pilot and the compass. Yeah. And I would even say, you are your own pilot of your own plane.
Yep.
The compass is yours too, it's already there. All
Yes.
I will do as your coach in that moment is to say, hey, when did you look at your compass last time? And you're like, I
Yeah.
don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
then we come to, do you want to look at your compass? And then you go like, I kind of do. And then we ask the
Yeah.
next question. It's like, why do you want to look at your compass? And then you go
Yeah.
like, because I always knew that looking at my compass is what I want to do. Then you
Yeah.
say like, all right, so let's look together. What's the compass saying? And then they say, oh, compass says I should go this way. And I say, okay, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to go this way. It's like, great. This is how my coaching sessions go. No, I'm not coming in there with a magic wand and
Yeah.
saying like, let me fix your life.
Yeah.
It comes down very much to the simple fact of understanding that you have all the answers already. And
Yes.
from there, your life develops.
Yeah. You're making them aware of it. Many of them don't know or don't believe that they have the answer within them. And that's a coach will make you aware that you do and you have it. And then they will hold your hand to make you accountable to yourself so that you're able to make those decisions to move yourself and your family to change your trajectory. I want to thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. This has been a wonderful conversation, man. Thank you so much, Armin,
Well,
for
thank you so
coming and
much for having me.
spending
It
your
was such a
energy.
blessing.
It was, and I want you to go and enjoy your wife and enjoy your children and enjoy your path that you have chosen, because the path is a servant. And all of us that are listening, I'm going to provide his information. There's nothing like someone who has that servant heart and wants to serve. Why? Because they learn how to be empathetic. They learn how to be compassionate. They've learned how to be patient. They've learned how to be all of these things you heard about. They have practice with themselves. And so he has a
Yeah.
baseline by which he can now engage in yours. Again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Uh,